When you pay taxes, you probably think of roads, defense, or social security. These are the classic examples, services that everyone uses, the backbone of our society. But what if your tax dollars are also shaping the minds of the next generation in ways you might not expect? Beyond the basics, a surprising amount of your money is funding radical, one-sided courses at American universities. These aren't just electives tucked away in obscure departments, they're often required classes, woven into the core curriculum that every student must take to graduate. Federal grants from the Department of Education are bankrolling programs that embed specific political ideologies into higher education. These grants, sometimes worth millions, are awarded to universities that promise to promote certain viewpoints, often under the banner of social progress or equity. Courses on diversity, equity and inclusion, anti-racism, and critical identity studies are presented as fact, not theory. Students are taught that these perspectives are the only valid way to understand society, history, and even science. Students are expected to accept these ideas without question, and dissent can mean academic penalties. Some report feeling silenced or afraid to speak up, worried that challenging the narrative could hurt their grades or reputation. This isn't limited to a few colleges. Major public and private universities nationwide receive millions in federal funding for these programs. From coast to coast, taxpayer money is shaping what students learn, regardless of local values or beliefs. Should taxpayers be forced to subsidize ideologies they disagree with? Many parents and citizens are starting to ask tough questions about where their money is going and what kind of education it's supporting. Is the government endorsing a political agenda by funding these courses? Or is it simply supporting academic freedom and open debate? The line between education and advocacy is becoming increasingly blurred. We'll examine real examples, hear from affected students, and explore both defenders and critics of these programs. Their stories reveal the real impact of these policies on campus life and academic freedom. The debate is growing. Some call it progress, others call it taxpayer-funded indoctrination. The stakes are high, and the conversation is just beginning. Ultimately, it's your money, and you deserve to know what it's supporting. Transparency and accountability are more important than ever. Let's pull back the curtain and see what's really happening in America's classrooms. Since 2021, the Department of Education has awarded over $200 million in grants to nearly 50 universities. These funds, often labeled for mental health or counseling, require integrating DEI principles into the curriculum. Universities must show commitment to DEI to access these grants, leading to new courses on anti-racism and whiteness as a social problem. The funding doesn't just support classes, it builds an entire ecosystem, training future counselors, teachers, and social workers in these ideologies. Critics say this is the government picking winners in the marketplace of ideas, rewarding ideological conformity. Oversight is minimal, administrators chase grants, and the Department of Education focuses on compliance, not quality. Taxpayers are left funding a system many see as political activism, not education. Most have no idea their money is being used this way. In December 2025, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign found itself at the center of a national controversy, making headlines across the country. The uproar began when leaked slides from a mandatory first-year course surfaced online, exposing what many saw as overt political indoctrination within the curriculum. One slide, in particular, blamed former President Trump for the rise of white supremacy in America, presenting this assertion as an unquestionable fact, rather than a topic open for thoughtful debate or analysis. Instead of fostering an environment where students could critically engage with complex social issues, the course seemed to dictate a single perspective, leaving little room for genuine discussion or dissent. Students reported feeling pressured to accept these views, rather than being encouraged to question, challenge, or even respectfully disagree with the material presented. Importantly, this wasn't just the opinion of a single professor. It was embedded in a required taxpayer-funded class at one of the nation's leading public universities, affecting thousands of students. Using mandatory courses to push a one-sided political or ideological agenda is widely seen as an abuse of institutional power, and it risks alienating or even silencing students who hold different beliefs or come from diverse backgrounds. The university administration defended the course under the banner of academic freedom, insisting that universities must be places for challenging ideas, But critics argue that true academic freedom means encouraging open inquiry, not imposing a single ideology. When public funds and resources are used to promote partisan narratives, the line between education and propaganda becomes dangerously blurred, raising serious questions about the mission of higher education. Students deserve classrooms where real debate and diverse viewpoints are welcomed, not spaces where conformity is enforced and critical thinking is stifled. Ultimately, this incident serves as a stark warning about the direction of higher education in America and the urgent need to protect intellectual diversity on campus. Even Ivy League schools aren't immune. In 2025, Princeton offered a course framing the Gaza conflict as genocide, presenting a fiercely debated claim as a starting point. The course relied on critical theory jargon and a predetermined narrative, discouraging genuine debate. Instead of exploring multiple perspectives, students were led to a single conclusion. A responsible course would require engagement with diverse sources and viewpoints. At Princeton, activism seemed to trump scholarship, raising concerns about the university's commitment to open inquiry. When a course's conclusion is set by its title, it's no longer education, it's advocacy. Are elite universities becoming echo chambers for progressive ideology? At the University of Minnesota, the Institute of Child Development posted a webpage describing whiteness as a pandemic, a virus infecting all Americans. This pathologized an entire racial identity, treating it as a disease to be cured. The university defended the page as academic freedom, but critics called it divisive and pseudoscientific. Such framing would be unthinkable for any other group, yet it was presented as legitimate scholarship. Extreme racial theories are now mainstream by university departments, fueling division and resentment. Students are told they're inherently flawed or perpetual victims, deepening campus conflict. This isn't inclusion, it's a recipe for perpetual grievance funded by the public. The normalization of these ideas is reshaping campus culture. These theories aren't just abstract ideas, they have real, tangible consequences for students sitting in classrooms today. Every day, young people walk into lecture halls and seminar rooms, hoping to learn and grow, but instead, many are confronted with materials and expectations that challenge not just their intellect, but their core beliefs. Take Kelby Murphy at the University of North Georgia, for example. She was required to purchase a textbook that labeled Christianity as a white supremacist group, presented not as a viewpoint to consider, but as an unquestioned fact. For Kelby and many others, this wasn't just an academic disagreement, it was a personal affront, and it came with a hefty price tag. At the University of Oklahoma, another student faced harsh consequences for expressing her Christian faith in a class assignment. She received a 0, and although the teaching assistant responsible was eventually dismissed, the message to students was unmistakable. Voicing dissent, especially on matters of faith or conscience, can be risky and costly. At Texas A&M, a student was reportedly removed from class simply for questioning a lecture on transgender topics. This incident was so concerning that it triggered a system-wide audit of course content, raising questions about academic freedom and the boundaries of classroom discussion. Across campuses, students are increasingly pressured to choose between their deeply held beliefs and their academic success. They're often required to pay for materials that not only challenge, but sometimes outright insult their identities and values. The result is a climate of anxiety, fear, and self-censorship. Instead of fostering open dialogue and critical thinking, many classrooms have become places where students feel they must stay silent to avoid conflict or punishment. These aren't isolated incidents, they're part of a growing troubling pattern seen at universities across the country. More and more, students report feeling uneasy about sharing their perspectives, especially if those views go against the prevailing campus culture. When students are afraid to speak up, universities risk becoming places of indoctrination rather than true education. The diversity of thought and robust debate that should define higher learning are replaced by silence and conformity. The cost is real and profound: silenced voices, lost opportunities for meaningful debate, and a generation of students trained to comply rather than to question, to memorize rather than to think critically. This is not what higher education was meant to be. Universities should be places where ideas are tested, not suppressed, where students are encouraged to challenge, not just accept. The stakes are too high to ignore. The future of open inquiry, genuine learning, and the very purpose of higher education depend on our willingness to confront these challenges and defend the freedom to think, question, and speak. University leaders defend these courses as academic freedom, the bedrock of higher education. In theory, this protects open inquiry. In practice, critics say it's become a shield for one-sided indoctrination, presenting radical claims as fact, like the Gaza genocide or Christianity as supremacist, shuts down debate. Academic freedom is invoked to protect progressive theories, but rarely to defend dissenting voices. Conservative professors and students are often silenced or punished for challenging the orthodoxy. This selective application turns academic freedom into a tool for enforcing ideology, not protecting inquiry. Taxpayer-funded institutions owe the public a balanced education, not propaganda. The challenge: protect real academic freedom while ensuring students aren't coerced and taxpayers aren't funding activism. Right now, the balance is lost. The core question: should federal tax dollars fund these radical courses? Supporters say government shouldn't dictate curricula, and that DEI and identity studies prepare students for a diverse world. They argue these courses are essential for understanding inequality and building a more inclusive society. Critics counter that forcing taxpayers to fund divisive or offensive ideas is unjust. Concepts like whiteness pandemic or labeling Christianity as supremacist are deeply offensive to many. Critics also question the rigor and value of these courses, seeing them as activism, not education. They argue federal funding should go to balanced, evidence-based programs, not partisan advocacy. The government should fund education, not indoctrination. As 2025 ends, the debate over higher education's purpose is more intense than ever. Federal funding for DEI and identity-based courses has sparked a national reckoning. Is the goal to teach critical thinking and open debate, or to mold students into social justice advocates? Where's the line between academic freedom and public accountability? The future of universities, and society, depends on how we answer. This isn't just an academic debate, it's about your money and your country's future. You have a right to a say.